Welcome to The Spot, the podcast. Join your boy Double T as we discuss music, sports, entertainment, culture, and so much more. So sit back, relax, and welcome to The Spot.
Welcome back to The Spot. I am your host, Double T, and I am so glad you guys are back here with me. On today's episode, we talked to Davon Pulliam. Davon is a chef, and he makes kombucha, his own kombucha. What is kombucha, you ask? Well, you're going to find out. This interview was amazing. We talk about his culinary experience, his business, how he got started. Just sit back, relax, and welcome to The Spot.
Shop Be Sold for the latest trends in footwear, handbags, and accessories, giving you luxury vibes without the luxury price tag. Use code The Spot for 15% off your order. That's www.shopbesold.com. www.shopbesold.com. Welcome back to The Spot. I'm your host, Double T, and I have a special guest here with me today. So ever since I've been podcasting, I've always wanted to have somebody on that does this. And I stumbled across this page, and I had to get him on the show. So with no further ado, I want to give it up for Davon. He's the owner of and correct me if I'm saying it wrong, I know we've been through this like 5 times, but the Tortuga Kombucha, right? Am I saying it wrong again?
Tortuga Kombucha.
Tortuga Kombucha. The kombucha tea is what we're talking about, everybody. Tortuga Kombucha. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a mouthful. I'm trying to I'm gonna get it by the end of this. I'm gonna say it flawlessly.
Okay.
But before we get started, if you can just tell the people a little bit about yourself, give them a little bit of your background.
My name is Davon Pulliam. I'm originally from New York. I've lived in Baltimore for equal amount of time, so I claim Baltimore. I've been a chef for half of my life. I'm 31. I just had a baby with my wife. She's
congratulations.
9 months old. Thank you. I'm a stay-at-home dad / kombucha maker.
There you go.
And gotcha. I'm geeky and like video games and anime. So that's a little bit about myself.
Nice. Let me ask you this before we even get to the tea. You watch WandaVision?
I haven't watched WandaVision yet. I've been on a Marvel blackout, for lack of better terms, because they just released so many movies like back to back.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And all of them were like not like, some of them were good, like the new Spider-Mans are good, but ultimately some of them I just kind of like, I'm doing the same thing to Star Wars. Like I haven't watched any of the new Star Wars either. I'm waiting for it to get, kind of be on the back burner where I can watch it at my leisure, and then I can enjoy the hype around it and judge it and take it in as is. So
Right. Well, let me say this: the new Star Wars, in my opinion, they're nowhere near as good as the originals, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation.
There's a whole other conversation right there. But all right, so let's get right into it. Can you tell us all about, I'm probably going to say it wrong again, Tortuga.
Yeah.
I got that right. All right. Tortuga Kombucha, the tea.
Kombucha. So Tortuga Kombucha is pretty much like my introduction. There's like multiple facets about it. Like initially I wanted to learn how to do business. And so Tortuga Kombucha was the first business that I've ever started. And so the Tortuga means tortoise in Spanish. And I wanted to embody like the wisdom of the tortoise in the learning process of business. Because I mean, you could go to school and learn the theories and stuff of business and economics and stuff like that, but you don't really learn how to run your business until you run your business. So
Absolutely.
So I wanted to start a business. I've always known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I always wanted to be a leader, and I just didn't know how or what, and like how or what I was going to do.
Mhm.
I've cooked in kitchens for a long time. I've been a sous chef, line cook, all of those things, and it's cool and it's fun and I love it and I'm still going to do it. But ultimately, there are people who are way more dedicated than I am, and I don't want to act like I'm putting as much time and work in it than they are.
Mhm.
So like that will always be a craft that I can always do, but I want to find my path, and so Tortuga is one of the paths, the first path. So yeah, so that's kind of that's the reason why I started the business. How I got the confidence was by making it at home with my wife. We used to buy it all the time from this local kombucha maker in Baltimore named Hex
Okay.
Ferments. And I was originally introduced to kombucha from them at a farmer's market in Waverly on 32nd. And from then I just was like, oh, this is really good. And it can be pricey when you're buying it, every week or every other day or so. So we started making it ourselves. And then I started like sharing it with people, and they were like, oh, this is good. And you know how when someone's like, oh, you're good at this, and then you think you can make money off of it.
Mhm.
It's too,
Mhm.
like being good at something and making money are like not the same. So so I kind of bridge those two thoughts, having a product that I'm confident that I believe in, and then having a goal, which is learning how to do business. So taking my time to, focus on, learning business, but providing a good product to back it up. So that's the base, about Tortuga Kombucha. Our brand and how we approach kombucha. All kombucha is usually made from tea. The base is tea and a Scoby, which is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So those are what create the flavor and facilitate the process of the tea. And I was kind of like other businesses where you ferment your tea and then you add fruit to it in second fermentation. And then at the time I was working in a cidery, and they were focused on apples, and they were like, we really appreciate the apples, and we want the apples to speak for themselves. And I am a tea drinker naturally, and so I was like, why don't I just showcase tea and learn more about tea through my kombucha, and that way I don't, I'm not masking the tea, the original product, which is the tea. And so I started kind of going down that rabbit hole. I was trying to learn more about tea, trying to, share the tea mindset with people. And so then, that was like the third, pillar of the business, learning business, having a good product, and then, focusing on the integrity of the tea. So those are like the cores of the business.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you this. So I'm a tea drinker. I drink tea here and there. So I know kombucha has a lot of like health benefits to it compared to just like drinking a regular, Lipton tea. I like for me when I drink hot, I'll drink a hot tea. I'll put a little honey, a little sugar in it. What are some of like the big differences between drinking a tea, like a regular Lipton iced tea or hot tea or whatever, compared to the kombucha tea where it goes through this long process and it has way more health benefits to it. Can you explain some of the benefits of drinking kombucha tea?
Then the main thing is the probiotics. The antioxidants still exist through the tea. You could get antioxidants through, hot brewed or cold brewed tea, and you could get it in the kombucha. But the fermentation process, it creates an environment to help your body regulate itself. It's kind of like, there's like some people, some grandmas or grandparents, they say, hey, drink a cup or, drink 4 ounces of organic apple cider vinegar a week or
Yeah.
something like that organic apple cider vinegar was also fermented, and it's organic, which means it's still living, so it has some bacteria to regulate your stomach. And so that bacteria is like, it's like taking it's like if you're not a swimmer and you jump in the pool, and you're gonna be frantic because you're not used to the environment. But the longer you practice and the longer you stay in the pool, you get used to it, and then you'll flourish. And the same thing happens when you introduce good bacteria to your body. When other bad bacteria come to your body, the good bacteria kind of like protects your stomach, and it kind of like facilitates overall better regulation of your stomach and intestines. So that fermentation that's what that's there for, is to help kids like stimulate good bacteria in the body. There are other products that do that, like kefir or sauerkraut, kimchi, and most fermented food products do that. Greek yogurt, they all introduce this bacteria that's already in your environment into your system, so that you just kind of it helps facilitate your body's immune system. So that's the biggest difference.
And it also, you touched on it a little bit earlier, Scoby. And there's actually, I seen the picture on your Instagram of like you're like holding a piece of Scoby. What exactly is Scoby?
So it looks like a jellyfish or like a scallop. I call it with my most kombuchas, they're all living. They have to be living, like a living product in order to be considered kombucha. And so if you let any bottle from the store sit out at room temperature, it'll continue to ferment, and then a Scoby will form at the top. And my glass bottles are clear, and I like to, I do bottle conditioning, which means that my process is finished in the bottle. It's not finished. I don't finish the product and then put it in the bottle. It's finished in the bottle. And so there's I call it a little jelly bean, because it's like a gummy lifesaver almost. Where you get it and you're like, oh, I don't want to eat that, but then it's chewy, but then it's like it's kind of pleasant because it tastes like the tea. But anyway, what is it? It's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So most things that are fermented, they need they need something to convert sugar or the environment to make the food different. And in the simplest way to explain that is like, if you have, mold grows from mold, that's a type of pathogen, bacteria is a type of pathogen. So these things, they take the living and turn it into, decompose or break it down or convert it to a different product.
Gotcha.
So the Scoby is yeast and bacteria. And what happens is the bacteria kind of gives you that acidic flavor, similar to this apple cider vinegar, but then the yeast gives you that fermented like beverage flavor that you get the bubbles from. So they work together to create the different flavor that is known for kombucha. That's why I call it symbiotic. They're working together. So that's what it means. And it's interesting because they function differently in the same environment. So it's cool. So yeah.
Nice. So, and then I know with making the tea itself, it's from what I've heard, I mean, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but to make the tea how you make it, it's not an overnight process. It's a long process, right?
So for me specifically, I steep it for a while. I can't tell you exactly how long, trade secret, but I steep it for a while. And for tea, you steep it, and you're supposed to bring the water temperature to a specific degree, based on the type of tea. And sometimes I test the different variables of the temperature, but because of my steep time, and the amount of extraction I'm trying to get out of the tea leaves, I don't focus that much on the temperatures of the tea, of the water.
Right.
But I try to steep it as long as possible, within a healthy environment, in order to get as much tea flavor out of the leaves. So I didn't really answer your question directly.
No, it's all right. It's all right because I you can't you can't give away all the secrets. But I just knew because I did a little research on it, and I know it's like and I guess like you said, it depends on how you do your recipe or how you kind of go about it. I know it's just not like oh, let me make a quick couple bottles tonight and sell them tomorrow. Like it's a whole process to it.
Yeah. It depending on your like you have to have a certain environment for fermentation,
Right.
and depending on how high or low your temperatures range, it could take longer. And this is where, going back to the bacteria and the yeast, talking about, the yeast will convert all the sugar into CO2 and or carbon dioxide and alcohol, and then the bacteria will convert it into acidity. So you have to kind of find the right balance in your biome or your environment to facilitate both healthily. Because if it's too high, you're just gonna have vinegar. But if it's too low, it may not do anything, because if it's not warm enough, the bacteria in the yeast will just halt or die. So, and that the temperature determines how quickly it'll go. But for me, usually, my first steps before going in bottle is about a week and a half, and then in bottle is about another week and a half to 2 weeks. So it's about a month for my process. And
it's almost,
huh?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In the wintertime, it's longer because it's cold. It's generally colder. So you could probably times that by 1.5 or maybe 2 in the wintertime, unless it's like a temperature controlled room at all points in time, which is expensive. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, it seems like it's really like, it's a science to it. It's like, it has to be the right temperature. It has to be the right environment. It depends what you're using. It's a lot to it. So like, as you're breaking it down, like this is like kind of like Breaking Bad or something. Like, I don't know if you watch Breaking Bad, but just the way, it's like it's a science to it.
Yeah. This is when going to working in restaurants and going to school for cooking, and food safety really teaches you about the temperature danger zone and about, food safety, like potentially hazardous foods, and where and how food should be stored and what temperature. And that kind of translated to me, is similar in that way, because a lot of cooking is also science too, but just the normal stuff, like for example, like cooking your meat, like cooking a steak to a certain temperature will definitely change the texture of it on your palate. Like if it's raw, it's gonna be chewy and irony and bloody. But if it's like medium, then it's gonna be more palatable, and then you're gonna get those juices, and you're gonna have like this caramelization. So that is science too, but we don't really look at it that way. I don't think I'm very science-y. I research to learn step by step, because I don't feel that I don't retain a lot of information at once. I kind of have to recall back on stuff.
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
I have to I research, say, oh, I have to do this. So then I learn it, and then I apply it, and I do it over and over again. And then it becomes like more of the routine than being a science. But there is science. I'm not denying that, but I don't think it's as sciencey.
Yeah.
But in order to make it safe for everyone to drink, and also to just make it the right way, you do have to follow some guidelines. So yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the flavors that you offer, and like maybe what's one of your best sellers or one of your favorites that you have?
So right now, this will be my second year of being selling online, or being having market information. And so last year I was making 5 plus. I was making 5 main ones, 5 main tea varietals. And that was my Tortuga Vieja, which just means like old turtle. And that kind of, to me, that was like the OG, like the original blend that I started off with. So I called it the old lady, because Tortuga is from, to me, is a woman. So the Tortuga Vieja is like a lady to me. So that's why it translates like that. And that's like my OG flavor. Is really approachable, very subtle. A lot of my flavors are subtle because I don't want the too much tea flavor to be like astringent and in your face, because when you oversteep your tea, or then you like wring the bag out and you get all that black, gritty at the bottom, it's not palatable, and it dries your mouth out and makes it all puckery and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to make sure that it's delicate and like and subtle, so you can get the flavors, but it's not like intruding it onto your palate. Because kombucha is already a little aggressive in itself. So to answer your question, I kind of honed in on five tea varietals, because I was getting crazy and just be like, oh, this tea is cool, and I would like do like 80 different teas, or doing like maybe 25 last year. I did at least 25 different teas. Some didn't work out, some did, but this year I was like, okay, in order for me to be consistent with my product and have enough product to sell to people, if they say, oh, I want this, and I don't have it because I'm not making it, I have to kind of slow it down. So I do Tortuga Vieja, which is a green and black tea blend. I do Genmaicha, which is a green tea that has puffed and roasted or toasted rice, like brown rice. So you're going to get this earthy brown rice nutty flavor, and then the green tea you're going to get that like floral, like clean flavor. And that's I think that one's a popular one because it's different. It's like, normally don't drink Genmaicha on the daily. Some people do, but it's not a normal tea in every household yet. Black tea usually is.
Yeah.
So that one is a really cool one. Then I have another tea called Lychee Noir. I think that might be my personal favorite, but also it's been the most consistently sold. It sells the most. And it's a black tea with lychee flavoring. So what they do, most teas are fermented. So they take the leaves and they roll it over, like either it'll be like steam heat, or like in a wok over dry heat, or in the sun they bake it, and they either roll it or they like kind of bruise it, and that process kind of like, so it ferments the leaves so that flavor is there, but also it creates that tea flavor, because otherwise you're just gonna kind of be drinking like leaves that fell from a tree and it dried up.
Right.
So it's not technically tea unless it goes through that process. Like green teas aren't nearly as fermented as black teas. And then oolongs, all the different types of teas have different degrees of fermentation, and that also dictates the color of the tea. But to answer the question, the Lychee Noir is a black tea which is fermented more than the other teas, but they like add the essence of lychee to the leaves and then they ferment it, so that lychee flavor comes out. So it's not like lychee fruit and then black tea. It's the essence of lychee that has been fermented into the leaves, and that kind of perfumey flavor comes out when you drink the kombucha. Then I have a oolong, which I think is really awesome. A jasmine, which is very floral and just like kind of just like perfumey, kind of honey, sweet, smelly. And then I have one more. Yeah, I think I said 5: jasmine, oolong, Tortuga Vieja, Lychee Noir, and Genmaicha. So those are my 5 signatures right now. I do small batches occasionally, but I try to focus on the main 5 so I can have a core, like a set amount of products that people know they could come and get every single time. I do dabble, like I do a peppermint tea sen, which is just peppermint leaves, and that's really like herbaceously like minty in your face, kind of clean your palate. That's really fun. And then I do a lapsang souchong, which is a smoked tea, so that's different. It's like peaty, kind of like Scotch. So I like playing around, and this is why I love doing this, because one is my business, so I can experiment, but two, I'm experimenting within reason, but then I can provide like something cool and interesting to to my customers. So so I like to play around, but I also like to make sure that I'm consistent for them at the same time.
Yeah,
Did
because
I answer your question?
it does, it does. Because I can imagine, like, if you, like you said before, if you're just making like all these different teas, and like we kind of talked about before, it's not an overnight process. So you can't just be like, oh, I got 20 new teas I want to try out. But like, you need to kind of hone in on like your main ones, as you were saying. So it's definitely, I definitely understand. Because I know you probably get the urge to kind of be like, oh, I want to try this tea and mix this, and maybe I can get some kind of new flavor. But
Yeah.
it's I can imagine it's a lot. And you say
It,
you also cook.
yeah.
Um,
Well, right now I'm not cooking professionally. I'm just cooking at home for my wife and my daughter and
oh,
myself.
hey,
But
hey, some might say that's professionally right there.
I'm not gonna downplay the home cook or the home, homebody, but my craft I went to school for, and I worked for, the only job I've ever had was cooking, anything related to hospitality. So I do consider making kombucha and selling it still part in like hospitality, adjacent, but it's not, I'm not in the trenches. I'm not like serving every day. I'm not cooking in the, on the line. But I did it for about 15 years now.
Oh
Oof.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been doing it for a while, half my life pretty much. So yeah, it's been a while. I worked around some places in the city. Yeah.
Do you ever like pair? Do you ever like, how you'll go to maybe a steakhouse, and they'll pair a steak with a wine, or something like that. Do you ever like? I know you don't necessarily sell food, but do you like say, this tea goes great with, I don't know, a biscuit or a bagel or something like that? Do you ever pair, or do you ever in your mind maybe come up with ideas like that?
Oh, all the time. I part of one of my because food is so like integral to my life and to like my thought process.
Hmm.
One of the ways I approach my kombucha is to be like consumed with food. Not necessarily, but I will not hesitate to say, hey, this kombucha right here will go really well with this food. Like, for
Right.
example, like the genmaicha, the toasted rice one, like that one is earthy and astringent, and it could go really well with other earthy dishes. If you have like a risotto, you get some like, really cheesy risotto with mushrooms, you get this genmaicha, which is also rice, and so you get like two different ways you're eating the same type of rice. You have the albario, which is the risotto rice, which is not, slightly toasted, but it's not as toasted as the rice and the genmaicha. So it's
Hmm.
kind of complementing but contrasting at the same time. But it's also cleaning the palate from the heaviness of the risotto. So like stuff like that really helps me get, it helps me sell
Definitely.
the kombucha, but it helps you create a different pathway for the product. I don't focus in on like, oh, kombucha is healthy for you, or oh, CrossFit kombucha. I don't do that. I mean, you
Hmm.
can, but I focus on like, hey, like this can be, like this is tea. Take time to drink, enjoy the beverage, and if you're taking time to enjoy the beverage, like if you have, like you said, a piece of steak that's really got a lot of fat on it, or you got like some short ribs or something, and it's, those are fatty, like short ribs are really fatty, and your palate gets overwhelmed, have some of this kombucha. It has some acid to cut that fattiness. If
Hmm.
the ribs or whatever is really sweet from the sauce, you cut it with the fattiness, but then if like the lychee noir has that fruity flavor, so you're kind of enhancing that sweet and fatty with this fruity, like tropical lychee. So like that works, in my brain. And now I'm not selling, like, I'm not saying, hey, kombucha in your face only. I'm saying, hey, this dish
Yeah.
goes well. And tell me what other things go well. And then now I'm trying to make it a part of people's lives, and part of the restaurants where they're saying, hey, this is, Tortuga Kombucha, and we think it goes well with our cuisine, instead of,
Hmm.
oh, this is on the store next to 80 other kombuchas, and it's just, I like the packaging, so
Right.
it's a different approach, and it's my approach because I know I've cooked, and I think I know about food. I'm not gonna I do know. I've been around food a lot, so I want to incorporate that into my brand as well. Yeah.
I like that. I like that because when I wouldn't say younger, but like years ago, I would, you go to places, like I said before, they'd be like, oh, this burger goes well with a certain type of beer. And I'm like, man, whatever. But it really makes a difference because, like you said, if you're eating something sweet and then you're drinking something sweet, or if you're drinking something that has a lot of, acid in it, and you're eating something like it makes a difference in your meal. So
Yeah.
that's great that you can come there, get some tea, you can get it paired or get an idea of what to pair it with. It makes a world of a difference. Like I used to be that guy like, hey, it doesn't matter. It don't matter what you drink, but no, it matters.
Yeah, it's a different perspective, and for me, I approach it that way because my palate gets overwhelmed very easily.
Yeah.
So if I'm eating the same thing over and over, like my wife loves mashed potatoes and like she likes tacos, she likes mashed potatoes, she likes dishes that are good. Like I have nothing against them, but I've had, when you work in restaurants, if you have to make mashed potatoes or pommes puree, every day for 2 years, how many times have you tasted mashed potatoes?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
like in that sense, if you're eating, these, starchy, buttery, it can be overwhelming. And then if you're at a, sitting down and you're not moving around and you're not engaged and you're not burning these calories, and then you're eating a meal or a multiple course meal, it's going to be daunting to eat 3 to 5 courses and not have something to refresh your palate, not have something to stimulate, to keep you moving. So that's how my palate works. Like I can eat like something for like a month and then I kind of like switch it up because I want to keep it fresh. I want to appreciate it too. I don't want to kind of, my palate works on the law of diminishing returns. The more I consume something, the less I appreciate it, or the value of it goes down. So
Yeah.
I try to keep the balance, except for pizza.
Pizza
I
never
love
gets
pizza.
old. Pizza never gets old. My wife tells me I'm gonna turn into a Ninja Turtle because I eat too much pizza.
I'm from New York. Pizza is like, if you find me near, I will walk and eat pizza any day. I'm a walking eater.
It just never gets old, man.
It doesn't. Yeah. So that's like an exception. That is random. But,
Well, let me ask you this. So let's say, I'm walking into your store, or I hear about kombucha tea for the first time. What would be something you would recommend, like for a beginner? Like what? Because certain teas, like you kind of said before, they can have a little bite to them, and like, do you think certain teas might turn certain people off? I mean, everybody's palate's different, so everybody has a different taste for something. But let's just say it's my first time trying it. What would your recommendation be?
So right now I'm not I don't have a storefront yet. I do mostly about 100% online sales, and I am in some of what do you call it? Sorry for that. I just got a message. I'm in some restaurants.
Oh, okay.
But I would recommend like the Tortuga Vieja. Like I said, it's the OG flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle. It's a blend of green and black tea. So you're gonna get a mix of like a balance. The jasmine and the oolong are also very subtle. Most like I think Lipton, they're Arizona with the honey ginseng. I think that's a jasmine green or a green. I think it's a green tea, but they have a jasmine tea. I used to drink when I was younger in college. Actually, I would drink like they have the handle, like the gallon of the tea. I was like, oh man, I was a maniac on that stuff. I was just drinking it like water. that was like the worst part of me. Like when I was just like, Lipton tea is delicious. I mean, it's nothing bad with it, but it has so much sugar in it. Like when you realize how much sugar is in there, and you're like chugging it down, then you're like, why am I so hyper? You know, or why do I have so much energy? Because you're taking all these simple carbohydrates, and then green tea has caffeine in it too. Not the answer to your question, by the way. That was a sidetrack. Anyway, answer to your question. Tortuga is I think is approachable. I think jasmine and oolong, and then if you want something that to be more reminiscent of fruity, the lychee noir. I think the reason why lychee noir is popular is because the flavor is pungent enough to recognize, but it's not sweet, and it still tastes like. So like all three of those hit you at the same time. It's like, wow, this is a kombucha. It tastes like lychee, but it's not sweet because most of the time lychee is like in a syrup. Right. And that's how it usually comes like preserved in a can, like in the syrup. Plus you're getting fresh lychee, which is not likely. I mean, it doesn't happen often, not where we are right now, but it's usually in a can, is in a syrup or in some sort of pink goopiness somewhere. So
gotcha.
Or ruby, like ruby reddish kind of pink. But the lychee noir, I think is like a really good like, oh, I'm gonna try this out. And then oolong and jasmine and Tortuga Vieja are subtle and easy drink. So those are my answers. I'll give you a multi-tier answer.
Then let me ask you this: you can drink those cold or hot, correct? Or
so the kombucha. So actually, I realized you were saying kombucha tea. I don't know if it's redundant, but because you have to use tea to make kombucha. If that makes sense. So
that makes okay.
So, but it's not like because it's fermented, you can't drink it like hot tea.
Gotcha.
So I don't want it to be confusing because for me in my product, I do make tea based kombucha, but like in general, you know, it's like tequila to mezcal. You know, like it has to be tea, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, so like I didn't want to. I was trying to figure out. I didn't want to be like, oh, you don't know, but I also don't want to be a jerk about it. But so because it's fermented, and my product comes in a glass bottle, and I cap them similar to how like it's called a crown cap, similar to like how beer or wine are capped to keep the CO2 in, and the fermentation process is expedited through heat. So if you heat it up, you can't heat it up if you're like cooking with it or whatever, but you can drink it at room temperature or no higher than like 67 degrees Fahrenheit. If it gets hotter than that, it's going to get like tart. It's going to be harsh on your palate because there's acid in there too, you know? So preferably at room temperature, not on a super hot day or cold. It's not champagne, so I don't think it needs to, or sparkling wine, so I don't think it needs to be like ice cold chilled. But some people like to put it on ice because, you know, it kind of dilutes the acidity if it's really tart. Mine don't tend to be very tart, but some kombuchas can be very tart. So I would say room temperature to cold is the answer to the question.
Okay, but I'm glad you cleared that up because kombucha is not it's not kombucha tea. It's you use kombucha to make the tea.
Or you use tea to make the kombucha.
You use tea to make the kombucha. Right.
So
gotcha.
Yeah, so like it can be confusing because it's not like the tea is the main ingredient in kombucha.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Water is the ingredient, but tea from water.
Tea from the water, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. So I'm glad we cleared that up because I didn't want anybody confused because I was a little confused right there.
It's all
but
good.
Look, it's all good. But look, this has been very informative. Like because I know a little bit about kombucha, but not to the degree that you knew. And I mean, obviously I was calling it Kombucha Tea, so I didn't know. So, but if for those who are listening, can you tell them how you can be reached if they want to order some kombucha? Your website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you got.
You could go to tortugakombucha.com. Website's up. We can take orders on there. Instagram is Tortuga Kombucha. I have my Insta and Facebook are connected, so I don't really comb through Facebook. I think it's a lot of it's complicated. It's not complicated. It's just a lot of stuff on the screen and it's distracting. So I kind of just post on Facebook through Insta and then just to keep it relevant. But I'm usually on Instagram. I usually make one post a day. That's my goal for the year is make one post a day every day this year. I've been doing it so far. And then my website, I respond to emails, tortugakombucha.com. At tortugakombucha@gmail.com. And if you want to buy it, you can buy it online at the website, or you can DM me or, on Insta. I don't really I have a Twitter, but I don't do anything on it because I have a baby.
Yeah. Say no more.
Yeah. Like the majority of my time I'm watching her. But ultimately, I try to put some content out there. It usually is like something motivational because, we all need something. Sometimes I need something, so I put it up there because if I need it, maybe somebody else, it'll help somebody else.
Absolutely, man.
I try to showcase like some other Black businesses or some other businesses in general, things about restaurants, maybe some fun things here and there. But ultimately, just try to keep it, light and, chill and, positive. So yeah, but tortugakombucha@gmail.com or tortugakombucha.com. Those are the main two, or Insta. If you want to try some, hopefully, I have some plans for the summer. I don't want to say it yet, but hopefully I'll be at some places where you could come and taste some. And then you could give me your opinions on it, or you could buy or not, or whatever.
Nice.
But until then, I'll post it on Insta. And I want to do a lot of collabs and stuff like that. But right now, I don't want to jinx it. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. That's probably the best way to stay up to date, correct, on everything. The website that's like all in your link, right? In your bio. Yeah,
it's all the same. So Tortuga Kombucha.
So it's all right there. It's all right there. One click stop.
Yeah.
So look, man, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope somebody hears this and they are interested in getting some. I was about to say some tea again. Jeez.
Yeah.
And some kombucha. I hope you guys learn about kombucha like I just learned about kombucha because I've been calling it kombucha tea. And that's
it's not wrong. It's just, it's not wrong, but it's all good. It's all good.
I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like it's kind of like calling
cow beef.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like that's the same thing, buddy. But all right, whatever you want to, whatever you want to say. but yeah. Anywho, thank you so much for coming on, man. And make sure you guys check him out. Hit his Instagram up. If you have any questions about it, like you said, you can DM him, email, whatever it may be. Be on the lookout for these pop-ups, coming soon. We don't want to say when or where, but
yeah,
they're coming. Be on the lookout. I'm sure when it gets closer, he'll announce them on his Instagram.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, man. But I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome, and I'm glad you came on, man.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So until next time, we out this thing. Deuces.